for the 5 minutes I was trying to be an actress, everybody kept saying, you got to lose that accent. Hey, how?
I know, same here. Listen,
how?
20 years out here.
No way. My daddy got here this morning, and I'm like, by the end of the night tonight, there's going to be a banjo on my knee.
All right.
Take a minute. We don't have to start right now. I'm good.
I'll just take a sip of liquid death.
Take a minute.
My mom's so hard. I'm friends with those gals.
They're awesome. They were here yesterday.
Really?
They were so great.
Yeah.
I liked them a lot.
I used to do groundling stuff with Jen.
Did you really? I didn't know you did groundlings.
That's how I learned. That's where I started.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Groundlings is awesome.
It's really good.
It is.
It's hard, but the training's awesome.
Why is it hard?
Because it's like a boot camp for Saturday Night Live.
Oh, okay.
So many levels, a lot of writing, a lot of sketch, a lot of the higher up you go, the harder it gets.
Really?
And it's like, and if once you get to Sunday Company, it's like you are putting on a brand new show every week.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Was it so fun?
Really fun, but hard.
Yeah.
There were a lot of tears, not just from me, from everybody. It was like, because you're in a bubble.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the most important thing. And you're young in your career. So there's a lot of weight on everything.
And you probably, I don't know if you did, but I bet a lot of people have to work a day job.
Yeah. I was broke. So you would have to spend a lot of money because you pay to be in the program. And then you have to costume every sketch. Wigs are wildly expensive.
Yeah. Wigs are expensive, aren't they?
Yeah. So I would do I think I did you can get jobs where it'll pay for your dues or whatever. And my job was to buy the snacks for the green room.
It was?
I said, I know snacks. So I got to your house and started eating snacks.
I know snacks too. I'd be like, I'd take that job.
Yeah.
I'd be the same way.
Because I was like, I know what I want to eat in the green room.
So then when you came, did you come here first to LA?
Yeah, 20 years ago.
20 years ago?
Mm-hmm. I know I don't look old enough.
You don't, actually. A. And B, most people don't understand overnight successes take 20 years, right?
I know. People are, where'd you come from? This is if they see my Netflix special, they're like, what a cool break. I'm like, it's amazing. But I have been doing this for a while.
Not exactly a break, is it? Bert had the same thing. People would be like, where did you come from? And he was doing stand-up before I knew him.
Yeah.
And I've known him 23 years.
Well, there's also so much entertainment now. There's so many outlets. It's not like everyone's crowded around the TV at 7 p.m. for the, whatever.
Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah. Where, there's 40 million people watching one show back in the day. It's just so different now.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
I know Bert was reading Johnny Carson's biography. Someone just published. And I don't remember the number, but it was something like 40 million people watched his show every night.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. It was a different level of celebrity. And there were fewer celebrities. So, if you were a known person, it was a very coveted thing. Now you just, get your phone out. And if you get enough views, then, hey, you're a celebrity.
You're on your way wherever you are in the world.
Yeah.
So when did you came here 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Did you come here to do the groundlings? Because I know a lot of people do come here and that's their aim.
Yeah. No, I did theater in college and it was very new to me. I only did it because I made friends with people in the program and I was like, oh, this looks really cool. I want to try this. And so I think it was my sophomore year. I tried out for some plays. I was bad. I was not good. But I was coming from this tiny town of 8,000 people. I had never done theater. I didn't know how to build a character. I remember a friend of mine told me a couple years later, was critiquing me about an audition and it not being great, but in a loving way. But I was like, well, no one was teaching me how to build a character, how to audition. There are things that you have to learn, as you go. I had stage fright. So I did not think in college, I'm going to go be a performer in LA. It was really happenstance situation. I got a personal assistant job and came out here as kind of a life experience. Like, oh, this will be fun for like a year, and I thought I would like do that and go home. And I got here and hated the being a personal assistant. Was terrible at it. Should not do that because I'm not organized enough. And then started taking groundlings classes as a hobby. I was like, I gotta make friends. I want to do something fun. I had heard about all the SNL people, and I loved SNL, and I was like, oh, well, that's where Will Ferrell went, and Lisa Kudrow. Let's see what that place is like.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and then it just quickly became a passion. I was like, oh, I really love comedy. Stand-up wasn't even in my realm of thinking yet.
It's amazing when you grow up in a small town, because my hometown is like 1,800 people, that you don't realize certain things are an actual job.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I would have never guessed in a million years you could make money telling jokes.
Right?
Or being on TV just did not seem anywhere near a possibility.
It's crazy, isn't it? I know when I think back of when I was graduating high school of what I could do for a living.
Yeah.
Almost everything I've done for a living wasn't something I understood or knew about in any way, shape, or form. I think it's good for people to hear that.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to find your path in life. You just followed, I guess you just followed your interest.
Yeah, I kind of was better at that back in the day. Like I had this sort of naivete of just like, I'm not thinking about what could go wrong or how that might be hard. I just kind of did things, and I do think it was partly just being naive, just like not knowing any better.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I'll go do this and I'll figure out how to pay. It's not like I didn't come from money. Nobody was like bankrolling me. I was broke. And I just like, well, I'll just figure it out, and then once I discovered the passion of it, it was like, oh, I will do anything I can to be able to do this because I love it so much.
Right.
But the beginning part was just sort of clunkily being like, I don't know, I'll try this. This seems fun. But yeah, also being a person who looks like me, if you told me like, what's a movie star, what's a TV star growing up, I'd be like, Julia Roberts, some gorgeous person. It was not like someone that looked like me. So I was having to kind of come up against that too, of like, no one knew what to do with me for a long time. I didn't fit the mold. I didn't look like a TV person.
Right.
So I had to kind of forge my own path.
Which you have done amazingly, beautifully.
Thank you.
You're so fun to watch.
20 years later.
I know, but hey, it happened.
Yes.
It happens when it's supposed to happen.
True.
You seem to be from the outside to be really happy, really fulfilled, personally, professionally.
Yeah.
You're super great at what you do.
Oh,
I mean, you
thank
would walk out on stage and fully loaded, and everybody would just die. Like the whole audience would just respond to you so beautifully.
They were so nice. I think it's just, well, I've been lucky, like 20 years out here, I've been on television steady for 13 years.
Wow.
So I think a lot of people don't realize that it's been a slow and steady build. So as I've gone, I've brought different audiences with me, starting early on as a writer and panelist with Chelsea, then, sitcoms, and then these other projects, and then movies, and then stand-up specials. It's been a slow and steady rise, but there has been 13 years of, thank God, knock on wood, steady television and movie work.
Right.
And so I think now when people see me, they know me from something. Not everyone knows me, but so it's really cool to like go like doing Bert's Fully Loaded tour. The people that are kind of like, oh wait, I know her.
Right.
It's kind of fun to see people like discover like how they know me from something.
Yeah, they put two and two together.
Yeah,
exactly. That's fortune. Okay. Yeah, it is really cool to see how people kind of put all that together. It was cool to watch his audience discover people in general and that whole thing.
Well, that's the best part about a festival like that is you're bringing different comics together, and he's opening up his fan base to seeing different comics.
Yeah, it's part of the point,
Yeah,
right?
and I like doing it too because I do have a lot of females that watch me, a lot of female audience members. So to like kind of break into that dude world,
Right?
as I call it, is fun.
It's pretty heavy, dude, but there's a lot of ladies in his audiences.
Yeah.
What really shocks me is that couples go to see him.
Oh yeah,
they'll
date night, baby.
It's
Yeah.
totally date night. I think it's me. I think
I
it's
was about
because
to
he's
say,
in love with me.
No, it does. It does. The difference in Bert's comedy with versus some of the other guys is that he's married, he has a family, so you are relatable to anyone that's in a family or in a marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. So now, growing up the way you grew up, I know a little bit about how you grew up, not a lot, but I'm from the South.
Yep.
I'm from a small town, so I'm assuming some stuff about the culture of the town or the place you lived. How did anything from growing up that way affect you when you came out here, positively or negatively? Were there tools you learned from just how you grew up?
Yeah.
That you maybe got you ahead or got you to stick to it or figure stuff out?
I think there's different aspects to it, good and bad. Being from a small town, I was lucky that it was a town where people were kind. It wasn't like one of those southern towns you hear about where everyone's like hateful and narrow-minded. I mean, certainly that exists everywhere. It doesn't matter the South or whatnot. I grew up around a lot of lovely people. It's a small town outside of Charlotte, and there's a lot of people that know each other and look out for each other, and it's everyone's waving to each other, and there's manners, and like my grandmother really instilled manners, like open doors for people, shake hands, look people in the eye, like kind of that old school, like that
common courtesy.
Yeah, courtesy stuff. So when I got to LA, I was like opening doors for people and looking people in the eye and saying thank you, and people almost didn't know what to do with that.
It's too direct sometimes. Yeah.
They were just like, I felt kind of old fashioned to them in that way, which where I was from, it was just a very common thing. You'd talk to strangers. It was like of an openness that big cities don't have. And so when I got into the business, I think people were just like, oh, she's different. But like to me, it was like, that's not different where I'm from. That's just like, you try to be nice to people and chat with people. So I think that made me stand out to folks because they just weren't used to it here. I would say the negative part is being from a small town. You're in a small town. You're not, the internet was not, a thing till I was like getting in college. No one had cell phones. Your dad might have had the brick phone in his car, So there was I didn't know a lot of outside of my bubble. And I remember in college, like learning about different cultures and different people and craving it. Oh my God, like I want more of this. Like I had like a really amazing anthropology teacher, and she was like, come study in Mexico this summer. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think that was a possibility. Like, and because I didn't have much money, I thought, well, maybe I'm not gonna be able to do this, but I just worked a bunch of jobs, and because it was important to me to like learn and to grow and to evolve, because I just didn't have exposure to that. I mean, going to Charlotte was like another planet. As naive as that sounds now, it really was a different time. And so that experience really opened my eyes. And then before I moved to LA, I moved to Spain for a year because those 2 summers, and I spent 2 summers studying in Mexico. I studied like the Mayan ruins and learned Spanish, and it was just like so different than how I grew up, and that made me want to see more. So then I moved to Spain for a year right after college because I didn't want being from a small town to keep me from learning and growing and learning about people and cultures. And so then moving to LA didn't feel so like big and crazy. I just lived in Spain for a year, and I was like, oh, if I can do that, I can live in LA. And I just feel like as I have gotten older, I keep evolving, which, it's what you hope for.
It's what you hope for. What did you do while you were in Spain?
I taught English to I tutored kids in English, and then I went to language school trying to learn Spanish. And then I would I worked under the table, and then would take different periods of time to go travel Europe. Because like I said, I'd never wanted not having money to hold me back from going outside of my bubble. And I worked like 10 jobs after I graduated college, and I worked from the time I woke up till the time I went to bed. I did every job imaginable and earned like $9,000, which to me was like, might as well have been $1 million.
Right.
And that's how I was able to go.
This week's Wife of the Party is brought to you by BetterHelp. You know I'm a big fan of therapy. Couldn't do life without therapy. Therapy to me is about more than just psychology. For me, it's about mentorship. It's about commitment to self-reflection. It's about being a better parent, better wife, better business person, better friend. Therapy means a lot more to me than just what most people probably think therapy means. I know how hard it is to find a therapist, to find the time to go to therapy, or even if you're living in certain parts of the country, finding a therapist close to you could be challenging. So BetterHelp is a great resource if you're looking to start therapy to improve your life, to have some self-reflection. BetterHelp is a great place to start. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapist anytime for no additional charge. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/wife today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/wife. Wife of the Party is sponsored by Lumi. Lumi is a great product. I have lots of Lumi products in my house. My favorite Lumi product is their deodorant wipes because I work out a lot. I don't have time to shower. I've got to hustle to the next thing. And they're just so helpful. I toss them in my bag. I swipe here, swipe there, take care of any possible odor problems that might be in my future, and move on with my day. It's convenient. It's easy. It smells good, and it takes care of business. Lumi was created by an OBGYN who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Lumi is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. It's aluminum-free, baking soda-free, and paraben-free. pH balanced for safe use below the belt. Lumi's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like a mini body wash or the deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a Lumi starter pack with code WIFE30 at lumideodorant.com. That's LUME deodorant.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit lumideodorant.com and use the code WIFE30. See, I think what you just described, that work ethic, is something that comes from a small town. Because I know growing up the way I did not know a plumber. Like if something happened in the plumbing in my house, someone in my family dealt with it.
Oh, that's nice. My family was not that handy.
Oh, no, my family. We were, my town was, even though 8,000 is pretty small. 1,800 is tiny.
That's really small,
And the nearest bigger town was about 20 minutes away. And we were a little over an hour from Atlanta.
Okay.
So, like, if something happened, we handled it and had to figure it out. You know, if the well stopped working to pump water, everybody stopped what they were doing to figure out how to get the well pump to work. What do we need to do? We bring in the neighbors, and you just work until it's fixed. There's no like, oh, you know what? I gotta sit down for lunch now. No. You work till it's done. And part of that's a gift, and part of it is exhausting because then as an adult you just work till it's done, and work is never done. But I know for me, when I moved out here, I had a similar experience in that I was really broke, and I worked at one time I was managing an apartment building that had 39 units, waiting tables.
Wow.
While I was waiting tables, I was selling Avon
Yeah.
to the waitresses. And I would, I was writing scripts.
Yeah.
And I was catering on the weekends for like private chefs and private homes, and all at the same time.
Yeah.
So because you just got to make that money.
You just got to do it.
So that you can get that dream that's not paying you yet.
Yeah. Cause I mean, that was the thing, is like, I knew that like I came out here and I was doing that job, but you know, it didn't pay much money, and the rent was so expensive. Everything was so expensive. It like really blew my mind. And I knew that like I left Spain early, like a month early, because I ran out of money. And then I got a babysitting job for like a week. It gave me enough money to drive out here, and I could only get a $250 credit card at the time. They wouldn't approve me for anything more than that, because I had nothing. I had no credit, nothing. And I maxed that out. I literally had $20 to my name when I arrived to LA. Like, I knew a friend here that I slept on her couch until we could eventually find an apartment together. And I just knew there was no backup plan. The backup plan would have been to move home and just start over and, you know, go to figure it out. But no one was going to be able to get me out of any jams. So there was this mentality of like, because I had worked hard to go to Mexico, to go to Spain, I knew how to like just sort of hustle, like you're saying. You know, I was doing, you know, all kinds of jobs, painting people's houses, babysitting, dog walking, you know, the people that call for surveys on the phone, like whatever it took. And that work ethic did come with me here, which I think has been the driving force of my whole career.
Yeah, I think something about that roll your sleeves up, get whatever job done needs doing is so valuable. And raising kids in LA is kind of hard to teach.
I'm sure, yeah.
It's kind of hard to teach.
And when you have success, you know, you're doing well. I imagine that's hard.
Even harder.
Those lessons are hard too, because as much as it sucks to like, you know, have the light shut off, or the water bill hadn't been paid, that does build character. You know, it does motivate you to be like, I remember being like, I'm gonna work hard and be in a position where I can pay that water bill.
Heck yeah.
You know, and my mom did the best she could. She was a single mom, and she was a teacher, and there was 3 kids. It just was a lot of expenses, and summers were tighter, and so you just knew that at some point the water might shut off.
We had that a time or two as well, where you just go, okay, well, guess that's what it is today. And you just move on and figure out how to put some light on some other way if your light bill hadn't been paid.
For sure. But we had a roof over our head, you know, food on the table, so you don't really complain, but you just take it as a motivation to like, what can I do for this next generation of me and my whatever my family looks like.
Yeah, totally.
To be different than that.
Now, I have an Uncle Scotty.
Okay.
Love you, Uncle Scotty.
Uncle Scotty.
To this day, I moved out of Georgia in 1993.
Okay.
To this day, he says to me, Leanne, when you gonna move home back to Georgia? And I'm like, dude, I've been gone since 93.
Right.
I'm not moving home.
Yeah.
Do people still do that to you when you go home? Or do you ever go home much?
I go home, yeah, for sure. I'm just talking to my mom about going to go visit soon. I go home a couple times a year. And if I'm not home, like my mom or dad will drive to, if I'm somewhere in the South vicinity, they'll come to a show or something. Every now and then. My dad came out here for the first time in 20 years. He'd never been out here.
No way.
And he came out. We filmed Celebrity Family Feud.
You did? Yeah. We did that too. It was so fun.
I really wanted to do it for him.
Yeah.
And he loved it. I mean, it was like his friends were reaching out to him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. But I have uncles, or had uncles, that sound like your uncle. And if they were alive, they would be asking me that question for sure. But at this point, I think most people know, like, the West Coast suits me. Like, I love going home and to visit. I like that, like, slower pace. But I'm a West Coast gal now. I like the pace here. It's like still not as crazy as like New York, but it's not as slow as the South. Yeah, I love the weather.
Me too.
I ain't going
I'm
nowhere.
West Coast girl too, all the way. When all these comics moved to Austin, I was like, bye bye.
Yeah, right.
We're not going because I don't want to live in Austin. No offense to Austin.
Yeah,
I love where I live.
me too.
I love my friends. My kids grew up here.
Yeah,
I'm
you made
done.
a good life for yourself out here.
We did okay.
Yeah.
We did all right. We're so lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, we all are so freaking lucky.
Absolutely.
It's really lucky. If you weren't a comic, what do you, if nothing had panned out and you had to go back home, what do you think you would have done?
Yeah, people ask me that, and I don't know. It's funny because I was always a bit more of an academic than people would probably assume about me. I was kind of a secret nerd. I was like always athletic. I was on all the sports teams, and I was the person that was friends with all the different groups. So it wasn't like some cheerleader type, but I was like a sociable, like personable person. But like I remember in college, I would be hanging out all night, and then like at midnight, I would go in my room and study till like 4 a.m. So I think I would have probably gone to grad school. My mom was heartbroken when I didn't go to grad school
because
she's very academic. She's like a very smart woman. I graduated summa cum laude, which shocks people.
That's amazing.
I think because of my accent. I remember my mom saying at my graduation when they announced it, someone was like, "Really?"
That's great.
She really wanted me to go to grad school, but once I found comedy, I was like, that's just a waste of money. I know what I want to do now. So yeah, it would have been something. I don't have a specific answer, but it would have been something in a more academic path. I thought at one point I wanted to be a lawyer, but I know now that that would not have suited me.
No.
But I did I always like public speaking. Even if you took the comedy out of it, I gave a couple speeches in college for graduation and stuff. I was a commencement speaker, and I love that. So I might still have found a way to do like public speaking.
So, or teacher or something like a professor, something like that.
Well, I don't know if I would have been a good teacher. When I taught those kids English in Spain, one of them failed English.
Oops.
Because they just wanted to have fun with me. They were like, no, you're fun. Like they were these kids that were from a well-to-do family who wanted them to be very, rigid. And here I came like the goofball. And they're like, no, I want to let's play these games. And I was like, yeah, sure. I didn't know they had like tests and homework because I had a language barrier with the parents.
Right.
And it turned out the one kid was having like tests every week that I didn't even know
You had no
about.
idea. Oh my God.
And he failed English.
That's hysterical. You just went to Spain, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Was it fun?
It was really fun.
Your pictures looked amazing.
Yeah, we went out there to, just have a little vacation. Chelsea invited us, and we just have not had a lot of work-life balance. My wife and I. It's been work, especially since the quarantine lifted. I feel like everybody tried to make up for lost time and went double time.
Right.
And she kind of had to have a talk with me of like, we have to like have a life too. I was like, fair enough.
It's hard, isn't it? I know. Bert just was home for, I don't know, 5 weeks or 7 weeks. Yeah. And that's the longest he's been home in a long time. And like, not joking, maybe in a year or so.
Yeah.
And we have that talk a lot too. I think he and I have the same philosophy, which is, it kind of sucks sometimes, which is make hay while the sun shines.
Right.
Like everything's firing on all pistons right now. Why in the world would we go in? Let's just go ahead and go to the Cayman Islands.
I know.
But you have to at a certain point say, no.
Yeah.
That stopping down allows all this creativity and all this other stuff to happen in your life.
Right.
And it is important to make sure your relationship is your relationship and not, especially Bert and I work so much together. I don't know. Does Jax work for you? Yeah, I thought so.
Excuse me. Yeah, she's like on part of the management team now. She's always been very hands-on with me and my career. Like we go on walks and talk about, jokes for my stand-up. She's executive produced both my specials. She was on tour with me so much. She was seeing every set, giving notes, and we went frame by frame on my last special with 5 cameras here, 5 cameras here, just 2 shows, literally going second by second of pulling things. She's right there with me, and she's very good at decision making, and I really trust her opinion. So yeah, she's not as in the forefront as you because she's like painfully shy at times, but she's in the background making a lot of decisions. And so yeah, a lot of our life revolves around my career. And I never want her to feel like that she's sacrificed any part of herself for me. I want her to feel good and well-rounded, and that this is happy stuff. So I try to check in about what do you need, because a lot of people are checking in with me.
Right.
So I don't want to neglect her in that way. And also, success at the end of the day is like, I've seen people get success and come home to nothing, and it is a very lonely, empty feeling. And I didn't know if I would ever get to have both the marriage and the success. I did think at one point maybe you can only have one, and I know I'm lucky to have both right now, and I don't want to mess that up.
No, I'm taking that for granted.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you found an amazing human being to share your life with. I've talked to her a lot at the improv thing that we did.
Yeah.
I've talked to her before. Obviously, I know her. But every time I talk to her, I leave going, my God, she is just a great human being.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you're a great human being also. Yeah, she's really special.
She is. And it takes people a minute to get to know her because she's
shy.
So shy. Like, and I always say it to people, like, if you just give it a minute, she'll come around, or ask her questions. Sometimes my family's like, we don't know her well. I'm like, ask her questions.
Yeah, right?
It's not
ask
hard.
Her anything. She's not an open book, but she's open.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I talk with her, because I ask everybody so many questions.
Yeah.
She'll talk to me about anything.
Yeah. Well, she feels very comfortable around you. I can always tell when she's comfortable, who she's comfortable with, because she does start to open up more. But I've been lucky that, obviously we have a different dynamic because she's my partner. So she's very open with me, and I always know when people see what I see, they're, it's game over. They're gonna love her.
Oh yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah,
she's
so
awesome.
I'm very lucky, and she's super supportive and has helped my career and helped ground me. She's helped me learn boundaries. That was never a strong suit of mine, and just we're different we're similar in a lot of ways and different in a lot of ways, and I think the differences have benefited me in my growth.
Right. Marriage is an interesting thing, I think. I think people think when they see something like maybe you and Jax, but definitely me and Bert, sometimes people feel like or assume that I gave up everything. I was a writer. I was more successful than Bert when we met.
Which when you said that about writing scripts, I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that you wrote.
Yeah, I wrote screenplays. I wrote comedy and romantic comedy screenplays. I wrote 8 total. Yeah. 1 got made, 4 got optioned.
That's amazing.
It was a great. I toot my own horn. I thought it was great.
That's not an easy feat. Yeah.
No, I loved it. I just loved it. And when I met Bert and I was still writing until I got pregnant with Georgia, and I got pregnant with her. I got so morning sick. I was like, I couldn't do anything. And then he went on tour when she was 3 days old.
Oh, wow.
So at that point I was like, well, I can write later. I can't write and be a stay-at-home mom and manage this apartment building so that you can go on the road. So I'm going to stop down and do this. I have no regrets about it at all.
Yeah.
And I do similar to what Jax does with his specials. We go on walks and talk about jokes. Always have. I was the cameraman for all his promos back in the beginning, all that stuff. But I think what's interesting to me is what happened for me is I had a career and I had a path, right? Yeah. And once my kid and my husband came into the picture, I wanted my path to be this.
Right.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I wanted to be mom who got to see and be involved in everything my kids did. And I think sometimes if you look at some really happy marriages, it is their team. You're a team.
Yeah, you're a team.
And sometimes you're playing, it may look like the guy's sport.
Right.
But really, it's a sport you play together. I had examples of that in my childhood. Like my dad's best friend was a doctor and his wife ran the office.
Okay,
so one would think, oh, well, it's all about him.
Right.
But she was so fulfilled.
She's anchoring it
in her
too,
work.
yeah.
She loved what she did. And then my best friend Becky in middle school, her dad was a construction guy and mom was just like the rock that held everything together. And I thought that was amazing because at the end of the day, to me, the most important thing is your relationships with your kids and your partner. And the career will ebb and flow, will be hot and cold. But if that's good, then life is good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is the grounding thing that you need, because this business is like so fickle, and you talk about Bert and me and people not being too scared to take time off. There is that scarcity thing that you have, but you have to have the balance. You have to have like I'm sure when Bert comes home, there's such a sense of like groundedness, and it feels good. And yeah, I had never been in a team before Jax. I had dated and stuff, but never been in a serious relationship. This was very new to me. I think I get sensitive about people being like, oh, this is Fortune's wife. Like, yes, she's my wife, but she is her own person. And, there were plenty of sacrifices she did have to make. She moved here for me from Chicago. She was a teacher. And a really amazing teacher. I'm like, here's the thing about Jax is she could go do 20 jobs right now and be like the best at whatever that job is. She's just choosing not to right now because this crazy career is kind of all consuming, and so she's choosing to help me. But it doesn't mean she's not capable of doing 1,000 other things. Like, she was one of the best elementary school teachers. I witnessed it myself. These kids that like had never had a book read to them before. She's getting these 5-year-old kids with like no support at home, nothing. It's like second grade reading levels. She came to LA and taught for a year, and the parents were like, can we tape you? Like, can we bottle what you do and other teachers learn from it? But she's like not very like, she don't want attention or anything, but she's just so capable, like you, so smart, so good. And so Bert and I are lucky to have a teammate who's so capable. So I never want her to ever feel less than because she's choosing to help me so much.
Right. Well, I know I feel really lucky to be partners with Bert because I am never bored.
Yeah, I bet.
Ever bored.
He keeps you on your toes, I would imagine.
Never. Not just with his, shenanigans, but with the extreme and constant creativity.
Right, yeah.
I freaking love it.
That's great. Well, let's see, y'all are the perfect partners.
Yeah.
Because, like, some people wouldn't know how to harness that with him,
I don't know if I know how to harness it. But I definitely feel like I'm really good at riding the bucking bronco.
There you go.
So I can hold on.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely not as creative as he is. But I understand creativity in a way that works for him and for us. But yeah, I think about all the time how much fun life has been being a partner to someone who gets to. Yeah. Because you really get to live this really unique, beautiful, amazing, creative life. And I don't want to be I'm in the spotlight more than Jax, but I don't want to get on stage with a mic and talk to anybody. I don't want to be in front of the camera and do any of that. I thought I did when I was younger.
Really?
Yes, I thought I wanted to be an actress, and I learned pretty soon. I actually don't like the attention, but I like the creativity of it. Yeah. I liked what does this character do and why?
Right.
And why are they saying that? That's why I liked writing.
Yeah.
Because nobody saw me. I was in a room going, I'm going to make everybody do all this stuff. And then, I didn't like that part of it.
Yeah, she hates attention.
I bet.
I have to like beg her if like she wasn't supposed to do like, for example, Family Feud. She's like, no, I do not want to do it. I don't want to be on camera. And my mom got COVID the last minute.
No
and
way.
So Jax, she was like, no. And like we did this like remodeling show. It was supposed to be like 3 weeks. It was like 4 months. It was her nightmare. She does not want to be on camera. I have to like be like, please, can you just do this like little thing or a photo shoot? Like she used to do my podcast with me more, and she's like, I don't want to keep sharing my life with people. I said, that's fair, but she doesn't like resent me or keep me from doing, my job. Like
Right.
I've had been with some people in the past that like if someone came up to me and said hi, or they were like, oh, you're like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is kind of
not my fault.
This means I'm doing a good job.
Exactly. Oh, we've been trying to teach our kids that. We keep going.
Yeah.
You should say thank you. That just paid for your college.
Right. Yeah.
Come on now. Don't do that.
You just have to, I'm so grateful
to
anyone who cares about my comedy, about any part of my life. Like it's such a treat and such a rarefied air that I know I'm in, that anyone gives a crap about anything that I'm talking about,
Totally. So how did you get from the groundlings to stand-up? How'd you get into stand-up?
So I was going through the program at the groundlings, and it was very competitive, and they at the time did not have a lot of opportunities for performance. You're just going through a school but not performing. I was like, that is, to me it just seemed like that I cannot grow. No one can grow without putting this into practice. So I reached out to some people in my improv classes, and said, do you want to start an improv group? They're like, I'm sure, I guess. So like I would go to bars around LA and be like, hey, on a Sunday at like 3:00, could we do like an improv show in this back part of your bar? They're like, I guess. So we just started doing these like shows for our friends. And then that led to us renting out theaters to do sketch shows and whatnot. And someone came to one of those sketch shows, and she was like, you're a stand-up. Like, why are your voice is very specific. Because you could see like who wrote what sketch or whatever. And she's like, why are you not doing it? I go, it seems very scary. I don't know how. Because again, I was very studious. Like, I don't know how A plus B equals C with stand up. And she's like, no, you just kind of have to do it. But she goes, take my friend's class. And I ended up taking a stand up class. Because again, I needed that like structure.
Yeah.
And it basically just gets you up at a microphone, and you go, oh, this isn't so scary. Right. I actually like this. And then at the end of the 6 weeks, we had a show in the belly room of the Comedy Store, and that you get that laugh, in an audience, and when they say, as my mom says, I got bit by the bug. You do feel like, oh, this is it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you grow up with a lot of good storytellers or joke tellers?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a big Southern thing. There's a lot of, like, as I described, characters, quote unquote. If I could name 10 people that, like, people will be like, that person is not real. And you're like, no, that is.
Should we compare? Would you like to riff?
Right?
I have one or two myself.
There's just so many like characters in the South. You're like, if I try to explain to someone they would not believe me.
Exactly.
So I think having the eccentric people around and everyone's telling stories, that just sort of rubbed off on me. And my stand-up's very much storytelling.
It is.
I am not good at the setup punchline thing. But that also, for me, it works for some people really well. It's not authentic with me and my personality.
No, it's not.
I need it to feel real.
Yeah.
Like, let's have a real conversation, even though I'm doing the talking. You're following, hopefully, this story, and I'm hoping you can picture these people and taking you on a little journey. But that's had to evolve over the years, my storytelling.
Right.
At first you're just like, what? I think I talked about strawberries or something at first. You don't really have a lot of meat on the bone in the beginning, and that's something that has to evolve as you evolve.
Yeah.
So yeah, I from there started the guy that taught the class had a regular Sunday show at the Belly Room. And he said, I'll give you 10 minutes if you want to run the music for the show, and 10 minutes every Sunday for an entire year is a brand new stand-up is like unheard of.
Yeah.
So I got to build all this material really quickly.
That's awesome.
And it really helped me get on this path of like, oh, this is what I want to do.
That's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're really good at it.
Well, thank you.
It's really fun to watch.
I did teeter those two worlds of stand-up and sketch comedy for a while, not really knowing what was my path.
Mm-hmm.
I tested twice for SNL. They flew me out there. I thought that was the dream, you know, and I didn't even do stand-up for my audition. That's how much I kept those worlds separate.
Wow.
And didn't end up getting it. And then I thought, okay, well, sketch is gonna kind of go. I'm gonna put it over here. Then when I did Chelsea's show, I got to do both. It was a lot of stand up, and then they would always have me dress in characters and do these crazy sketches. And so then I got to kind of live in both worlds. But yeah, as I've gone through my career, stand up's really taken a front seat.
Yeah. I think stand up is something that no one can take away from you, and you don't need anybody else to do it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I think Patrice O'Neill said that to Bert before I knew Bert. He got a TV show.
Yeah.
And he was with Patrice when he got the show. And Patrice said, whatever you do, don't stop doing stand up because nobody can take it away from you. And Bert heard it and went, okay. And never, ever, even when he's on Travel Channel and all that stuff, always did stand up.
Yeah.
It's such a you only gig. It's really smart.
Well, yeah, and you're telling people exactly who you are too, like without this middleman being, you know, no one knew what to do with me for so long. I was getting no's constantly, and I do think stand up allowed me during that time of people, you know, back then when I started, it wasn't a positive thing to be different. Now everyone's like, what's unique about you? Like back then they're like, no, we don't like this. So stand up allowed me to just say to people directly, here is who I am. Here is my story, in a way that acting and sketch and improv that didn't allow you that opportunity.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's really good because who you are is so awesome. You know, I know when I was, for the 5 minutes I was trying to be an actress, everybody kept saying, you know, you got to lose that accent. And I'm like, how?
I know, same here. Listen, 20 years out here.
No way. Every time my daddy got here this morning, and I'm like, by the end of the night tonight, I'm going to be like, there's going to be a banjo on my knee by the end of the day because I just can't help it.
I know it. I mean, you've been out here longer than me, but like, I'm doing all this different acting stuff, and the accent is always there. I'm like, I will play that character, but it will have a slight Southern accent.
What's the favorite project you've ever worked on?
Oh gosh,
doesn't have to be TV, just in general. What's your favorite? I know it's The Cabin, but anyway, I'm just kidding.
That's right.
He's got to squirt boats, butthole.
I mean, doing my stand-up specials, I really love because it taught me like how to create my own thing and like be a big part of the whole process. I really love learning the whole business in that way. I had shot one of my favorite things is something that no one ever saw and will ever see. I sold a pilot about my life, like loosely based. It was a sitcom I sold with Tina Fey and Robert Carlock as the producers. They did 30 Rock together, and we shot it for ABC, and one of the coolest experiences of my life. I got to, you know, it was also the most heartbreaking thing because I got a taste of what that would look like, and then it all went away when it didn't get picked up. But it was, you know, my name was in the title of the show. Annie Potts played my mom.
I love her.
I know, she's amazing. John Carroll Lynch played my dad. Like, just solid people. And I got to play, you know, a version of myself, and it was just such a awesome experience, and it's surreal, you know. I just remember thinking like, this is wild, you know, being from that small town. Like, I'm driving a golf cart with my name on the golf cart because, you know, the show's called Family Fortune, and so yeah, that was a really cool thing. There's always different things. Like, I just shot. I'm not allowed to say the titles of things. because of the strike, but I just shot a really cool action series with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I never thought in a million years I'd get to do something like that,
Right.
And yeah, so I'm always like being introduced to these things that I never thought I'd get to do, and I think that's the coolest part of this business.
Right. Something that I've thought about you from the first time I met you is that you are just so comfortable as who you are.
Interesting,
In
yeah.
every way. And maybe if I'm misreading that and you don't feel like that's accurate, but and not everybody on the planet, no matter their job or what they do or who they are, feels like that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty comfortable in who I am.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Have you always been that way? Were you ever someone who were like, I don't know who I am, I feel lost? Or are you someone who are like, I don't know that I want to be who I am? Or because I only ask because you are so very much yourself.
Yeah.
And so you're just so awesome as yourself.
Thank you.
And I want people who listen who may be feeling lost in themselves to go, it's okay to be yourself. I want to know if you've always been that way.
Yeah. And so, it was just interesting to hear because I'm always curious how people perceive me, because I just, to me, I'm like, oh, just kind of, this is me, like I'm just sort of this, I don't know really how to be anything else. I mean, I play these characters and I can go into these different worlds, but it's never occurred to me to be anybody else but myself. Maybe that's from laziness. I'm like, this is what you see is what you get. But I don't know. There's a couple of things that might lead to that. I am comfortable with who I am.
Yeah.
I mean, I am not living in a world. I know what I look like. I know what my shortcomings are. I know there's a lot of stuff to work on. I certainly look in the mirror and go, oh, I'm so fat. Like I gotta, I pull it together. Like I'm like everybody else in that regard. But at the end of the day, I do like myself, and I'm grateful for that because I know that is so hard. And I see like the most gorgeous people that have so much going for them. They're so smart, hate themselves. And I'm like, oh, I hate that for them because, we can see so many great things in other people and you want so bad for them to see that in themselves. So I think mine comes from, I had a really special grandmother who I was like so close to, like kind of soulmates in a weird way. Who I spent much of my childhood kind of like her shadow. And she just gave me this like unconditional love of like you're good. And she made me feel like I'm good, and she gave me a real solid foundation of like of just like being happy with who I was. And so that meant a lot. She passed away when I was 18. And that was a tough thing, but what she did for me in those early years really set me up in a really special way for my life. And my mom has plenty of shortcomings that she'll be the first to tell people about as well, but she has a genuine like of herself, even in spite of all of our shortcomings. So that probably helps me too. And she also had the foundation of my grandmother, who was an unconditional love person for her. So I think, having someone in your corner that gives you that kind of love is really important, and they're not nitpicking at you. And my grandmother was never, there was, like, there's an extreme of it of like where you're making someone delusional.
Right,
It was not like that.
It's not like that.
Yeah.
It's not that you could do no wrong.
Yeah.
It's just that you knew at the core that she loved you exactly as you were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there were definitely times growing up where, I've always been a big girl. I've always been overweight, and that never felt good. As a kid, you'd get picked on sometimes. And I certainly, not knowing I was gay for a long time was hard because boys, I was not the object of their affection. And there is a part of your childhood where you go, what is wrong with me? Why does this guy not want to talk to me and you think something's wrong with you. So I certainly had plenty of times where I felt really terrible about myself because I thought something was wrong with me. And I think coming out did a lot for my self-esteem, and it is why I am so verbal in my stand-up and my message of like representation matters. I didn't have a lot of representation growing up. If I can be some sort of representation for people, I'll take it, because coming out, I just felt like I finally know who I am. And it was the greatest relief and sense of like everything makes sense now, that it just freed me in a way that I can't describe. And I think that also added a layer to it.
Yeah. Your grandmother probably set the stage for when you were finally ready, or that happened, that you were like, okay, I'm good. Honesty is the only way to live your life.
Yeah.
And we're taught sometimes not to be honest, just to be able to fit into social norms. Even, I was always a tomboy. I was always filthy dirty.
Really?
Yes. And not girly, no dresses. My mom almost insisted that I always wear a dress. And, my parents divorced. And when I go to my dad's, he did not give a shit what I looked like, how I dressed, what food I ate. I never put shoes on from Friday afternoon when you picked me up till Sunday when you dropped me off.
Yeah.
And when you get a certain age, that doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work. It's too threatening to girls, and it's too threatening to boys.
Interesting.
And so then you go, well, I got nobody. And even into my young adultness, I felt lost for different reasons than what you just described.
Yeah.
But I definitely understand what you mean. And then when you get really honest with yourself, you can go, oh, well, this is really actually not a big deal at all.
Yeah. Once you kind of like live your truth, you're just like, no one can take that away from me.
That's right.
And when you don't know who you are and suddenly discover who you are, there's such a power in that that I started comedy and came out in the same year.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think it's a coincidence. And I feel like who I am from that day forward is totally different than who I was pre that time. I'm a totally different person than I was pre that mid-20s era.
How are you different?
Just like knowing who I am, and that comfortability probably started there, because there was awkwardness with me not knowing how to talk to a guy. Like, am I trying to go on a date with him? Do I want him to like me? Do I look right? Is this outfit girly enough? Like, there's a lot of confusion in that. And I was probably meeker at that point because of that confusion. So once I realized who I was like, the confidence came, the sense of self appeared. I mean, I had things to figure out. Listen, I was very clumsy with dating in the beginning. I spilled coffee on the table. I didn't know how to talk to girls. Like, I wasn't like some fully formed human.
Right.
I still had a lot of growing to do, but it was like, oh, well, I can at least know the path that I'm on now.
Right.
So that just knowing where you're going is half the battle.
Heck yeah.
So
sounds like what you described as sketch comedy or stand-up.
Right.
Where you're like, boy, girl, girl, now I can do this.
Yeah. Once I knew what I wanted to do for a career, boom, everything's going down that path. If you don't know what you want to do, if you don't know what you like, you're kind of flailing, right? But I'm like, I'm gay, that path. I'm in comedy, that path.
Right.
It just helped, I don't know, set me on a more specific path. But I mean, certainly I can there are times where Jax is like, okay, you are a little too comfortable out. Like, my hair's crazy. I'm in sweatpants. She's like, we got to pull it together a little bit. Like, I'm always like, I don't care. Like, people either like me or they don't. She's like, yeah, but like, we got to try.
Care a little bit. Care a little bit. Just a little bit.
So I got to find a happy medium with it.
I think everything you described is what I would like my kids to know is your 20s.
Yeah.
100%. Because even though I like men, I always have, I didn't know what kind of man I liked.
Yeah.
So my whole 20s was like, well, I'm going to date this guy. That's not it. Yeah. Everybody I dated before Bert was nothing like Bert.
Really?
At all, straight laced, 3-piece suit type,
Mm-hmm.
buttoned up. I was the loud one. I was the funny one. I was the I was the creative one because I was a writer. And I never dated anybody like Bert. And I spent that whole time going, what's wrong with me?
Right.
Why can't I figure out what's going on here? Why am I going from writing to acting to writing to all this stuff? But I think that's what you're supposed to be doing in your 20s, right?
For sure. No one has it figured out. I mean,
Nobody.
There's still things I don't have figured out where I'm trying to, I'm always like, I got to get my life together, and like other people can look on the outside looking in and being like, oh, you've got it so together, but you feel discombobulated at different times in your life. But the 20s are for sure the time where you should be like trying on different hats, experiencing different things. You're going to have different jobs, date different people. So like not having pressure on yourself to get it right.
Yeah.
So many people we're just trying.
Yes.
We're just trying to figure it out.
We're just humaning it. Yeah, like humaning it up.
Give yourself some like grace, right?
Some grace. I know. I think the 20s, the question for the 20s is who am I? And the question for your 30s is what do I want?
Yeah.
Like what do I want is in your 20s too.
40s, I'm tired.
I've had enough. I've had enough. Can we push pause?
My hip hurts.
All right. How did you come to have a podcast with Tom Papa? By the way, I freaking love him.
He's great. Yeah, he's such a solid dude, right? Yeah, we're on year 4 now, which seems crazy to me. I never set out to be a radio host. I interned in college for a radio show, and I was like, never doing this again because they had to be up so early, and it was such an interesting job. But I think Netflix had reached out to him about doing because he has a show Come to Papa that he's always done with SiriusXM that's like once a month. And I think they thought, he's like a good, steady person that knows comedy, loves comedy, is friends with a lot of comics, and said, what do you think? And you should have a co-host. And my name came up and he called me. I didn't know him that well. We had met through some comedy friends, like here and there. So we were like two kind of strangers, just being like, are we going to like talk to each other every day for 2 hours, 4 days a week? I guess. So we just sort of blindly went into it. But yeah, it's like such a part of my life now. I wake up every morning and do that show for 2 hours, and then my day starts.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You must be still enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I'm like, how much can we talk about snacks? I talk about snacks a lot, but I'm always shocked at the feedback, like how many people are listening. And because, when you're sitting in a room like this, there's a mic. You and I feel like we're just talking to each other.
Yeah.
There is a part of you that kind of forgets, oh, this is going out for everyone to sort of, be like a third party to this conversation. And because we're so comfortable with each other, I think sometimes we do forget we're on the radio. I'm like eating. Sometimes people are like, can you not eat on the radio? I'm like, oh yeah, my bad, guys. Oops. But yeah, we're very comfortable with each other now. And just at the end of the day, the show's about comedy. Mm-hmm. And I love that it's a place where we talk to a lot of comics and watch people's specials. Like it always comes back to stand-up and the appreciation of that art form.
That's awesome. And how's your new podcast? Handsome, right?
It's good, yeah. That was kind of like a out of nowhere kind of like thing. Tig called and was like, you want to do a new podcast? And at first I was like, oh my God, I can't add one more thing to the list. But then when she was kind of describing what she had in mind, I was like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting.
What is it? Tell me what she described.
Well, we didn't really know. We just thought like, let's do a podcast that has, LGBTQ host. That's kind of like how Smartless has those 3 guys that are friends and know each other, and they talk about things and have a good time. What is like maybe a gay version that of 3 friends? You don't really see that in our community as far as podcasts. Let's kind of put our comedy forces together and have fun. And Tig called Mae Martin, who's a really funny Canadian comic who lived in the UK for a long time, who's really breaking out a lot in the US right now, had a show on Netflix that did really well. So yeah, we kind of discovered the format as we went. We actually taped a couple episodes that were, I don't think, ever going to air because we didn't have a format in place. But the format now is that we ask a celebrity friend or someone in the business to ask us a question. It could be any. They have carte blanche to ask whatever. And the first part of the podcast is us kind of just chatting about life. And then we get that question, and it takes the podcast down a hole. And none of it, person who didn't ask, the people that didn't ask, get the question, don't know what the question is. So we're giving real responses, and like, it can be like Sarah Silverman asked, "How do we wash our buttholes?"
Of course she did. That's completely something she would ask. That's hysterical.
Kenan Thompson's asking about politics and women in politics. Neil Patrick Harris is asking like more like if you could do this or that, those kind of things where it's just fun. Like Natalie Maines from the Chicks is asking us about celebrity crushes. It's just, it can go anywhere. So I like the like we never know what each podcast is going to be about.
Super free form in that way, in a structured way. That was really smart.
Yeah, and then the celebrity friend answers the question as well, so then you're finding out a new little piece of information from them. And yeah, it's just like an hour of like a feel good, like we're giggling a lot and laughing and being dumb and silly, and we're all similar and very different,
right?
So you're getting 3 very different perspectives.
Well, you come from very different backgrounds,
yeah,
right?
For sure.
So you can't help but have some pretty different perspectives. And
we're all friends, but we're all learning a lot about each other as we go. And the podcast came out of the gate so strong. I mean, we've had the amount of downloads. I'm like, it's like blowing my mind. So it's cool that people are like, we're only like 4 episodes in, but it's been very well received.
That's awesome.
Thank you. So yeah, it's like a very unexpected, cool new venture.
That's great. Are you ever going to have Bert ask a question?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Too, bro.
We're backlogged right now.
That's awesome.
Because we got we got to ask a bunch, that we have like all these questions that we're like, I guess we need to start, catching up.
Getting through them. That's awesome. I know Bert, and I don't know if he met May at JFL, but he definitely saw and talked to her. I don't know if
because they got
before.
Awards, I think.
They did.
Yeah.
Yes, and he became mid-level obsessed with her, with what's my program?
May's and them.
With them.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so sorry.
No, it's all good.
Really obsessed with them.
Yeah.
There.
May's intriguing.
So I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
They are very intriguing.
Yeah.
And Bert did this big deep dive on the clips that we saw of them on the screen.
Yeah.
And Bert had so many conversations with May while we were there.
Yeah.
And he kept turning to me and going, I want to be her bro friend. I just want to be her best bro friend.
Yeah.
Like, I need to give her some bro stuff. And I was like, dude, I bet she's had way more bro stuff than she ever needs to have in her life.
Yeah, well, May's very interesting for many different reasons, but May is also bisexual. So that, May does have like connections with women. May has connections with men. And May just connects with humans in a very like real way, a deep way. I love watching May interact with people because May kind of like, their eyes kind of lock in on someone, and that you can see them captivated by May. So it's fun to watch, and I'm getting to know May a lot more through this because we met in Australia at the Melbourne Comedy Festival like 6 years ago, but May was living in the UK.
What's wrong? Is everything wrong?
Yeah, everything's fine. Bert wants to call you and interrupt the podcast. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Interrupt the podcast. I know.
Okay.
The people that watch my podcast complain that he cannot stay out of my podcast. If he is here, he will interrupt it.
That is so funny.
So I told him I was podcasting with you today.
Yeah.
Not shocked that he wants to interrupt it.
My brother's going to his show.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. I saw him on the list.
Thank you guys for doing that.
Of
Yeah.
course. Are you kidding me? Absolutely.
He's so excited.
All right, let's see what he has to say. This guy. Hello? Yes, you were on speakerphone with Fortune.
Hey, Fortune, how you doing?
What's up, Bert?
Hey, so I have some interesting news.
Okay.
But I'm gonna pose it as a question. Leanne, what do you think the longest I ever haven't drank for is?
Oh.
Now? This time period
during
now?
the quarantine. During the quarantine. Do you remember when I didn't drink during the quarantine?
I forgot. The quarantine's a blur.
I felt like everybody was drinking in the quarantine.
He was not.
You were not? Okay.
No, he was home with the kids. Nothing to do.
Right.
I'd say 8 months.
I said I was going to say 3 months.
No.
During the quarantine. You ready?
Yeah.
I didn't drink for 40 days during the quarantine.
40 days.
Impressive.
At midnight tonight, I hit 41.
Whoa, oh, wow. So you beat it.
So this is the new
record.
record.
Is officially the longest I ever haven't drank.
Well, congratulations, babe.
I saw your picture.
I'd share that with you.
I saw your picture you just posted. You were looking leaner and you're very tan.
No, very tan. Oh, Fortune, let's not talk about stuff we posted. I literally wanted to leave my wife and family to go to the south of France with you and Chelsea the other day.
I mean, we were having a good time.
I think they were
in
Spain.
Yeah.
Wherever the fuck they were. Send me to that Isle of
you would like
Amazonian women. Jesus Christ.
And Bert, a lot of Speedos out there and a lot of going totally nude.
Oh, there you go, babe.
Hey, listen, I'm all about spray tans. I'll spray tan before I go and people will think I've lived there. Fortune, how do I utilize this as content? Day 41 tomorrow every day is a brand new day.
I would say I challenge you to double or nothing.
Double or nothing. Wow.
Double or nothing, baby.
You do look good, bud.
You look amazing.
That's all I called for. Thank you guys. I love you very much. Fortune, I love you to death.
I love you, bud. I totally am. My brother's coming to your show in Charlotte. He's pumped.
Oh, I cannot wait. Is he coming backstage?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yes, we got him backstage.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you.
Of course. He's not coming by himself, though, is he?
No, his wife's coming.
No, okay, good. Yeah. Okay. All right. I love you, babe.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, I saw him on the
that's nice.
list.
Thank you. I don't ever want to ask for that kind of stuff.
Oh, please.
So.
Please. At this point, I feel like you're family.
Oh, you guys are so good.
I really do. Especially because you're Southern.
Yeah.
And there's so few of us out here that are easily identifiable.
Right.
And from a small town in the South. Lots of people from Dallas, and that's not the same.
I know.
It's really not the same.
Yeah. It's just, you just kind of have a cut from the same cloth of like storytelling and not taking yourself too seriously. Like kind of, I just like, that's what I like in life in general. It's just like having a good time, try not to sweat the small stuff. My mom's old Southern saying was, don't borrow trouble.
Oh, that's a good one. I never heard of that. Don't borrow trouble.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I know there's something about hanging out with somebody who knows. The way you described your hometown was great because that's the way I feel. I grew up in a very sweet town.
Yeah.
Very neighborly town where everybody liked each other, waved at each other.
Yeah.
And cheered for each other. There was no there was a little bit of Hatfield and McCoys, but that's not the circle I grew up in.
Yeah, whenever I see that more narrow-mindedness, like vitriol from certain areas, I go, ugh, that's not what I relate to, nor want any part of.
Same.
I want to just, I don't want that.
No thanks on that. No thanks. So any big dreams you haven't achieved or anything you'd really like to do or somebody you haven't worked with yet?
I definitely want to. I've done a lot. I've been lucky to do a lot of cool acting projects. I really want to be a bigger part of a movie. I've been in a lot of movies where I pop in and act kind of ridiculous, and it's like a fun scene or whatever. But I want to be like a meatier part of a movie. I'd like to get one of the movies that I wrote made. I've got a couple that are like right there on the maybe line, and I'm trying to get one of them edged over like Bert, trying to make a movie where I get to be all parts of the creative process and in the movie. So that's a big goal of mine. I'd really love to have that happen. But yeah, just longevity is probably the biggest goal. I just want to keep getting to do this.
Yeah.
Whatever level that's at, I can't control that. But just getting to make people laugh, I just know how rare it is for someone to like their job. And I really love my job, and I just want to be able to keep doing it.
I don't think you have to worry about that.
I hope not.
I don't think you do.
But I always worry about like sometimes, you talk about being comfortable in your own skin and whatnot. I worry sometimes, like, am I interesting? Am I going to be working so much that I have nothing to talk about? Like, I just want to be a real human, which is where that work-life balance will come into play. Because as long as I'm enjoying my life, that will make having any success that much more meaningful.
Of course.
I don't want one without the other. I'd like to have both.
You have both.
So that's the goal.
Yeah.
Continue that.
I think you're awesome.
Well, thank you. I think you're awesome.
I love watching you on stage. And I love watching you off stage with your wife.
Thank you. Well, Jackson and I talk about you too, or like after the improv thing, we're like, Leah's the best. She's like got it everything's on lock. She's just like your hands are doing so many different things, and you just seem so cool, calm, and collected. So I always appreciate when you talk to her and give her advice, because she really listens to you and sees how you're handling everything and learns a lot from you.
Well, I don't know if she needs any advice, but I hope she knows if she ever even just wants to call and go, can I just talk this through? She
would love that.
I'm also good at just listening.
Yeah.
But someone gave me that painting of a swan.
Yeah.
Because I had somebody come, a medium came to talk to me about like my ancestors and whatever. He was amazing.
That's the West Coast part of you.
That's the West Coast part of me. Although, there was a witch in our hometown named Haley Lancaster, and we believed in that shit.
Witches are East Coast.
Totally. Yes.
Shamans and mediums are West Coast.
Okay. The witch/medium. He was a
South,
warlock.
Like, that's a witch.
I know, right? He's a warlock, actually. It was a man, but the warlock medium man person was like, I think you're a swan, where everything on top looks smooth and your feet are going like crazy.
Interesting.
So when you say that, I go, if she only knew how much on a regular basis I'm like, I am just falling apart. I can't keep it. It is going. How am I supposed to get this done?
I would never
Who's
know.
doing laundry? I can't pick up my kid. I'm constantly like that. So,
well, you got a lot on your plate.
I'm glad I sell it.
Yeah, you do. You do.
I sell it like everything's calm and cool. Well, thank you for coming to talk to me.
Of course. Thanks for having me. It's always a treat talking with you.
Always. And see if your wife will come and talk to me.
I will do my best. It's always pulling teeth getting her to be in any public forum. But
no. What I like to know, maybe if she'll hear me say it if she listens to it, I like to know what it's like for her to be a partner to like a rocket ship. I feel like I'm a partner to a rocket ship.
Oh, interesting.
And there's great things about that and not great things about that.
And also it's hot.
And it's hot, baby. It is. And you going fast. You better put your ponytail in because it's going to get wind blown.
Yeah.
But I mean, I talked to Joey Diaz's wife and I talked to Christina Paczynski, but I talked to her about not so much being married to Tom.
Right.
But I think people are curious what it's like to be married to somebody. And I don't need to know like she doesn't put her toothbrush up ever. That's not what I mean. I mean like what's
she
the
will
process
complain
for
about
her?
my lack of cleaning.
I can complain with her all day long about that.
Y'all can have a field day with that.
Did you ever go in Bert's tour bus while you were on Fully Loaded?
I never ended up going on the tour bus.
My God, proceed with caution.
Yeah.
There's a rattlesnake somewhere in that shit.
Jackson couldn't handle that.
Ooh, I can't either. That's why I don't go on the bus.
Yeah.
Stay home.
I feel like I'm not as messy as most people, but she's on the next level of like loves cleaning, and I'm not like that. So she's always the kindergarten teacher comes out of like, put your stuff up, do this, do that.
Does she have a chore chart for you?
No, because she's always doing most of the chores. She's like, this one over here is not helping me with anything. I'm like, I'm tired.
I'm sorry, baby. Well, thank you, Fortune. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, Leah.